Welcome to Eat the Buckle, the horror movie battle royale podcast that puts two movies in a weekly head-to-head matchup where the loser will remain in the ring another week and we will be forced to watch it repeatedly until we have one last movie standing in an effort to determine the worst horror movie ever made. This week's matchup, 1981's Madman versus 1994 Cemetery Man. I'm Jared, and with me as always are my intrepid co-hosts, Aaron and Josh. Gentlemen, how are you feeling about this week's matchup?
Oh, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Definitely some epiphanies were had when I was rewatching the reigning champion Madman.
Do you recall?
Hey, Jared. I think this week may be a little bit closer than last one's.
Really?
Yeah,
Uh, well, you know my thoughts on last week's Event Horizon, so I don't know if it'll be as close for me, but we'll get there. We'll get there. How was your second screening of Madman compared to the first one? Because the first time I watched it, I was had some drinks in me. I was having a good Friday night. I enjoyed it. The second time I watched it, my in-laws were visiting. I woke up at 6 in the morning. We were down in the basement, and I could hear her parents, Erica's parents, upstairs, like milling around. I was like, I can't go up there yet. I can't deal with this. So just dead sober 6 a.m. viewing on a Saturday morning of Madman.
woof.
Not how
Mine
you
was the
roll.
exact opposite. The first time I watched Madman, I was dead sober. It was an afternoon. Uh, this time I was nice and toasty. It was I don't know, Wednesday evening, and I had just enough beer in me that I was feeling good. And I think definitely Madman is one of those movies where your headspace can affect what you get out of it, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, I was stone cold sober the first viewing, and with my notes. The second viewing, I actually watched the Joe Bob Last Drive-In episode again. I hadn't seen it for years. It's been what, 5 years?
Yeah.
So I was like, let's see what Joe Bob has to say about this. And oddly enough, I don't know if it's just a synapse firing, but a lot of it was hitting home for things that we had said ourselves last week. So it's we all watch the same thing. There's only so much that can be said about
Oh, I've got more to say about it. I,
it.
I damn do. But we should give the newcomer the respect it deserves as of our time because we may have more to say about it. And I don't know, something tells me maybe we'll be watching Madman a third time. Possibly. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, but I'm not going to tell you mine yet. Um, so yeah, we can get into Cemetery Man. A little breakdown on that. So came out in 1994, directed by Michel Soavi. I butchered that. An Italian gentleman, Michel.
Wabi?
Maybe a lady. I don't know. I did very little
It's
research.
definitely a gentleman.
Yep, sure is. uh, this stars Rupert Everett as the titular cemetery man, Francois Haji Lazaro as Miyagi, his sidekick, who can only say one. He speaks like monosyllabically, basically, and kind of grunts and whines a little bit. Anna Falchi, as she's credited as just she is the character's name. She. And
And
so
a
that
Falchi Hachi Machi.
Anna Falchi Malchi. Woo. Uh, so yeah, so Cemetery Man, I don't really know how to break it down in an elevator pitch, like as a quick rundown. Does anyone want to take a stab at it or
Sure. So Rupert Everett plays a cemetery caretaker along with his special needs assistant Nagi, and basically they are given the task of killing people that are coming back from the dead because there's some sort of epidemic going on, and when people die, they don't stay dead and they come back as flesh-thirsty zombies.
yeah, some of them do. It's kind of like random which ones come back after
The
7 days.
Everything about the movie is random.
uh it's pretty cool. Like well, I mean that's kind of the first half of it, and then it just takes a like Hitchcock Lynch turn, a Lynchcock turn, if you will, like halfway through, uh, where it just so yeah, it's kind of cool. Like it's to me, it was like I liked how it was kind of just set in this world where is it just accepted that this happens to dead people, or they kind of make a note of it, like he mentions like is this just my cemetery, is this happening everywhere else that the dead people are coming back to life, and so you're just kind of you don't really know if that's the universe that you're in as you're watching the movie. um but
I watched the movie and I'm not sure what universe I'm in by the end of it.
what were your thoughts on it, AJ?
Um, Not to say that a lot of horror movies do, but this one definitely would fail the Bechdel test. Just because, as you said, uh, the only female, well, one of two female characters is played by the same lady, and both are named she. And actually, I guess there's maybe four.
Yeah, there's multiple.
There's
She
at least
plays
three.
multiple versions of she.
There's two she's, and then there's the old lady who keeps coming to the cemetery calling Rupert Everett engineer. And then later on down the road, she has a roommate who is a house madam, that's like, all right, pay up. And you're just like, man, this how much worse can it get for the cemetery man? And
Yes.
it just is, it's a rough slog. Like and I think I don't remember this from when we were kids. I remember this movie being more like Dead Alive or like an Evil
Yeah,
Dead,
I did
and
too.
us like really laughing, like, oh man, it's just like those other movies. And then when I bought this last year on Blu-ray, I was like, I don't remember how this movie ends, and I don't know that we ever got there because I
I
think we
def
fell asleep at all those sleepovers.
I definitely remember the end because I kept thinking as I was watching it again, like how does my memory correlate with like how does this get there? How does what I'm watching now get to where my memory of it was? And it did. But like I guess we should, so as youngins, for all the listeners out there that we have, we back when you could rent videos, VHS tapes, there was this guy that worked at Video World in our town who was like, we didn't really know him other than he just worked at Video World. His name was Henry. And, we were way too young to be watching these kind of things, but he would like be like, hey, kids, check this out. And he'd give us like his own personal collection of movies, like his own VHS tapes. And this was one of those that he gave us. And that was how we came across Cemetery Man. And yeah, like you said, Aaron, I remembered it being like more of a straight up just horror gore fest. Um, this one gets pretty artsy. It starts off like yeah, like just a kind of a zombie movie. As Josh said, he's kind of protecting the cemetery, keeping the zombies from getting out, but that's kind of his job. That's the life. He's I don't know how he got it. Was it like government appointed or whatever? Um, but then it just switches. So he meets a girl who is at her old husband's. She's like 20s probably and married to like a 70-year-old man who's dead. He meets her at the cemetery, falls in love with her. They end up having sex on his grave. What I thought was a very funny scene where he comes back to life as they're having sex. Uh
Did you notice how his photo changed on his tombstone when they first met?
yes.
when when she is like, oh, he was such a passionate lover, and he's got like this big smile on his face
Yeah.
when you see it, and then like when they start making out, he's the old man's face
He's
turns pissed.
Yep, and then she throws the scarf trying to cover it up.
So she gets bitten by him. And Cemetery Man has to kill her, and then he keeps seeing this woman in different roles that he falls in love with her over and over again and ends up killing her over and over again. And that's where it kind of becomes like Lynchian and Hitchcock, where you're like, is this really happening? Is all this, did you guys think, like, I got to the point where I was like, and he also has a like hallucination where he sees dead, like the Grim Reaper. who tells him like basically stop killing the dead. Those are my people. Start killing the living, and so he
Yeah,
does.
get your own.
Then it just turns into like a completely different movie where he just becomes this like psychopathic killer, and he's just randomly killing people on a killing spree, which was fucking just a wild turn. And that's the point where I was like, is this really was any of this real? Was this in his head? Um, I I I thought it was really cool how they did that, and I don't remember that at all. I don't remember that turn of events from the first time I watched it as a kid. Um, I don't know. What about you guys?
I I don't know. I did not remember the movie being the fever dream that it wound up being. Like when I started watching it, I was all in at the beginning.
The beginning's great.
The opening
Like
scene.
that stinger,
Yeah,
you're like, all right, it's Evil
Yeah,
Dead. Like I said, it's Evil
first
Dead or
first
Dead Alive.
five
exactly.
seconds of the first 5 seconds of the movie is like headshot, brains blown out from his like.
Yeah, he's smoking a cigarette on the phone. He says, "Hang on a second," puts down the phone, shoots a zombie that's walking through the door, picks up the phone, keeps on going. Then the music kicks in. The score is really good. The camera starts going through the cemetery. I love the way the scenery looked. Like the sets were awesome. They were low budget, but they kind of had that Beetlejuice, Dead Alive kind of feel to them. And I was like, oh man, this is gonna be so much fun. And then it wasn't. Like there were moments throughout the movie that I loved, and I get that the whole thing was supposed to be a dark comedy. But at one point where he like meets she as the prostitute or the sex worker and gets angry with her, ends up burning her and her roommate alive. I'm like, I'm not enjoying anything about this movie
Oh,
anymore.
really? I
And
like
the steps along the way, like the mayor's daughter that Nagi falls in love with, and
Yeah.
when she comes back from the dead, she is entirely annoying.
I think
Which
she's
again, I guess is the point, but I just thought it was executed the wrong way. And the zombies keep getting dumber and dumber, like her biker boyfriend that comes back on his fucking motorcycle. And
no.
then when he
Come on,
kills the
that was
mayor
so
and the mayor
good.
comes back and the mayor's like, "Oh, why don't you follow me up here?" And he's like climbing up the freaking it just gets so ludicrous. But along with all that bad, there are scenes that I like was genuinely laughing at, like when the Boy Scouts come into his home and
Yeah.
their jaws are all just like clacking.
There's the one kid rolling two sticks together to try to start fire.
Like
Yeah,
it
I
was just such a mixed bag the whole way
Yeah.
through for me. So
really.
It does a lot of oscillating between just feel. Like we said, you have that real ridiculous slapstick, almost like Looney Tunes comedy.
Yeah.
And then you throw in a couple sprinkled dashes of European theater film dread, an existential crisis, and you're just like, all right. And again, it's not an American movie. If it was an American movie, that whole second act would be completely different. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, it kind of just oscillates between like an Evil Dead to Josh's point about later in the movie. It's almost like American Psycho, where it's just like, all right, I really hate this guy. I don't really want to see him feed a cat to the ATM. I don't want him to burn two random people to death. I don't want him to drive Herbie the Love Bug into town and then just decide to murder 7 people just for the hell of it. And
Uh,
I think the movie is even like, did it really happen? Because he doesn't remember doing it, but you as the viewer see him do it, so he did it.
and there's also the like detective that's fought. There's like the dipshit Columbo, like Italian Columbo detective.
So I
That's
wanted to bring that up. Yes.
Italian Donald Pleasant.
So listen, it's so funny because like 2 days before watching this movie, I listened to a podcast that was about a serial killer in Italy that existed from like the late 60s, and the it lasted up until some point in the 90s, around the time Cemetery Man came out. And one of the things that they kept pointing out in the podcast was that the Italian police were really that fucking stupid. Like they were clueless, and they would arrest somebody and throw them in jail for these murders, when there was no evidence and they could actually prove beyond a shadow of doubt that the person they suspected didn't do the murders, and they still just kept them locked up because they refused to be proven wrong. So like that kind of gave me a laugh because I'm like, oh wow, I guess the Italian police department really is that thick-headed and dumb.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they did pick up on that because it was, when did that happen?
It was like from the late 60s up into like I think 2006.
Oh, wow.
It was a long time that these murders were unsolved.
Maybe this movie was a commentary on that. We don't know.
It could have
I don't know
been,
what,
yeah.
I don't know what Michelle was thinking. Let's get him on the pod. Let's call him up.
Get him on the phone.
I
But,
okay. Sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was just say closing thoughts. Like I just one thing I noticed. I actually liked Rupert Everett's character when we watched it back in the day. I remember that, and I found him to be really annoying rewatching it. He just sounded like an angsty 14-year-old kid with all his little like asides, like the world sucks and it's not worth living. It's like, all right, man, go put on your Cure t-shirt. But the
Hey.
movie was really
Don't bring the
saved by,
Cure in.
and excuse me for being chauvinistic or whatever, but Anna Fulci's gorgeous naked body definitely went a long way to save this
Sure.
otherwise mediocre movie.
I disagree on everything you guys have said. I thought the tone was fucking hilarious. I thought the funniest I haven't laughed this hard in a long time when the scene when the mayor's daughter comes up to Miyagi and he's like in love with her and she's like, "What's wrong? Can't you speak? Can't you?" And he's like holding back his vomit and then pukes all over her. She just instantly like gets on the back of their boyfriend's motorcycle, just presses up against his back with puke all over her. And then the next scene is instantly just the bus annihilating all of them.
Yeah, running her head completely over, and then magically we just sewed her head back on, and she's fine. To put her in a glass coffin.
Yeah, the glass coffin, and Miyagi rips her head off so because he's in love with her, and he's a grown man, although might have the IQ of a younger man, but he rips her head off, which is a talking head, and
a talking head that drives around on an RC car.
I did.
I mean, you don't see the RC car, but you watch it. You're like, that's a little monster truck.
Yeah,
I did love that scene where the mayor they dig up her body and the mayor sees her without a head and like I can't remember what Rupert Everett says, but he's just like, "Oh, this is gonna be fun" or something. So that scene was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, and she when the father sees her, he's like, "Mind your business. I shall be eaten by whomever I please."
Yeah.
I got this thing was hilarious. The scene at the
I mean, it is like a Grimm's fairy tale. It really is.
It was like Evil Dead 2 meets, I keep saying it, like a Lynchian Evil Dead 2. Like they knew what they were going for. Right? He knew that Tony was going for, and I think he nailed it. I think the scene in the end when towards the end when he's the cemetery man is in the hospital because someone has taken credit for his killings and he goes to confront the person.
Oh yeah, the guy from the office.
Yeah, the person like tried to kill himself, but he's in a coma. So it's just cemetery man by his bedside at the hospital, and people just keep walking in. And he just like, it's like shoots him in the face. So that the next nurse will come and be like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he just turns and shoots. I thought that was hilarious. You didn't like that? You didn't think that was funny?
It was just the tone was too all over the place for me. I couldn't. It exhausted me after a while.
It needs. There's a great movie where you just decide here's what it's going to be, the American version, and you cut 20 minutes out of that because I think once the Grim Reaper shows up, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in the beginning, like the wisps at night traveling through the cemetery.
Yeah,
that looked awesome.
Yeah.
Even in Blu-ray where you could see the strings.
The setting was
but everything about it looked cool. It was a cool place to stay for an hour and 20 minutes. But I think this movie was what, like 150 or
it's close to it.
And it just
143.
Oh, Yeah, so cut 20 minutes out of that, and I think you can
Yeah,
pare it down. But I don't know that makes it special. That's the
I
only thing.
I think I actually watching it as an adult would I liked it better than I remember liking it as a kid.
Yeah.
I because I totally
Uh,
forgot like the tone change and I mean I guess we should talk about the ending because it's fucking crazy. uh he they so Cemetery Man says like I've no he keeps saying also there's a really weird through line in the movie where it seems everyone in the town knows that his dick doesn't work.
yeah, oh yeah.
Just like
That
random
and
people will be
that
like
too. What the fuck was that whole storyline about? Why even put that in there?
I honestly think there's something from a philosophy 101 class that we forgot about in college
yeah
that would explain away a third of this movie that
there's
we're like hemming and hawing over. That it's just like he was trying to repress earthly desires or something, because then obviously it worked because she was just like, "Wee, that was so great," and the husband gets pissed and comes back and tries to kill him.
That whole scene where he goes to get his dick chopped off
Oh,
was just that
yeah
was kind of a turning point for me, I think.
uh,
no but
have you
like
guys seen The Church by the director Soavi?
No.
no
It's kind of like this, except it's more direct. It does a lot of the weird, like, is this really happening stuff, or like how, like, just kind of like Looney Tunes reactions to weird, spooky stuff going on in a old Gothic church. And it's like the same type of movie, but doesn't have that little bit of extra texture, metatextual stuff with the, you know, the all that exists is just this village,
Mm,
just this, because he goes through the tunnel, and you're like, and you go through and you can see another town on the other side of the water.
yeah
So
yeah
it's like, well, wait, there's stuff over there. Like, I guess they
yeah
didn't have the budget to show like a void or something.
Probably not. But that's so yeah, that's what I was gonna get. So the ending, he he mentions a lot through the movie, like I've never been more than 20 miles out or whatever. Like he's never left the town. So towards the end, he's like, we're getting out of here. And he gets Nyagi, who again, the only thing he says is nyet or whatever. Like the only word he says is that grunt. And then so they're leaving town, they go through this tunnel and they kind of like cabin in the woods style, just like run into the edge of the world. Like they can't go any further. And he slams on the brakes. Nyagi smashes his head into the car. They think, Nagi, they think he's gonna die. He doesn't. And then all of a sudden, Nyagi stands up and speaks perfect, well, not perfect English, but perfect words. He's like, I would like to go home now, please. And then Cemetery Man says, Nyut. And then it
Mhm.
comes out and they're in a snow globe.
Which the when the movie starts,
You see it.
it shows the snow globe in a
Yeah.
Yeah.
minute. Yeah.
So it's
So,
like Madman because it gives away the ending.
yeah, oh boy. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
There you go. That's a good lead-in.
But to go back to his dick not working, the scene when the scene when Miyagi pukes on the mayor's daughter. Before that happens, the cemetery man's like walking into they're at like an outside cafe or something, and he walks past this group of like greaser bikers that end up getting annihilated. But you can hear the bikers just talking as he goes by, like, yeah, he can't get it up. He can't like talking about how like how the fuck does everyone in this town know that about him?
I mean, it does seem like there was only in this universe at most any time 20, 25 people.
It's so funny. What a weird thing to put in there. Maybe that's why he's so miserable the whole time. Like that and the fact that he works and lives in a cemetery and has to blow people's heads off daily. Maybe that's why he's so goddamn depressed. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
it's
I liked it. I thought it was good. I enjoyed my time with it.
I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I liked it less than I remember liking it when I was a teenager. But it, all in all, it wasn't bad.
see, I feel like I'm a bridge between the two of you, where I'm like, I can see both your positives and negatives, on either side talking
Yeah,
about this. So it's
I definitely agree that it, could have stood to be 10 minutes less, but like, I enjoyed it. But did we enjoy it as much as the next competitor, which
the
1981
reigning champion.
reigning, I don't know, is it a chant? Do we
Give
call
it to me, baby. Let's hear it.
Madman Mars? 1981, Madman Mars, directed by Joe Giannone. God, can we get a Bill Smith as a director? I can't pronounce these names. Joe Giannone, written by Gary Sales. I don't think we talked about the cast last time. Starring Galen Ross, Tony Nunziata, Harriet Bess, Seth Jones, and
Well, it doesn't matter because most of them are cover names because it wasn't a union job.
oh, is that right?
Yeah, I remember that from Joe Bob, where Betsy, the lead actress that was in
Yeah,
Dawn of the Dead.
she was in Dawn. I didn't. I had it in my notes for last week. I didn't mention it. As I was watching, I was like, "Who the fuck?" She looks so familiar, and it was
Yeah.
Dawn of the
Well, this isn't her. The name you just said is not her real name.
These people don't exist in any other movie. It's their only
Was it
acting credit.
was it that it was non-union, or was it that it was Madman? That they were,
Both.
don't use my fucking name, Joe Giannone.
Which, I mean, shame on me. I don't remember what her real name is, but she went on to, according to Joe Bob, to be a highly regarded documentarian. So if you
Uh,
ask her about it, apparently she's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
so her actual name is Galen Ross. She's credited as Alexis Dublin.
Yes,
Yeah,
there is no Alexis.
Well, good
and
for her. I'm glad she was able to climb out of the hole.
the man who played TP was credited as Tony Fish.
Yeah.
He was definitely a fish.
Well, what's
um,
his real name? And and according to Joe Bob, he was buying fish. He was like a fishmonger. Like he was going down to the pier and picking out fish, like the best fish for all these hotels and restaurants.
wow, his real name's Tony Nunziata. A lot of Italians today on the pod.
Well, it
So
is
I
based
thought
out
it
of
would be
Staten Island.
it's true. I thought it would be fun to go through and talk about the goofs listed on IMDb, like
Okay.
the fuck ups in the movie. There's only one, which so that there's only one goof listed in this entire movie. So I put it to us, fellow podcasters. Let's find some goofs and let's put them on that IMDb page for the because maybe we'll be watching this again. Maybe next time we watch it, we just strictly watch it for goofs, so we could put it up there. I'm going to. That's going to be my goal next time. I want to add to the goofs because there's got to be more than one, I would
There's
think.
definitely script goofs.
So the goof
Like,
that's listed is kind of dumb.
TP's a goof.
why? All right, here's my goof. Why does Madman Mars have to light a match, to light a candle,
So many
then
candles.
instantly smother the candle to leave the house?
He farted.
I mean, was he on the John and was like, I got to make sure Richie doesn't know I'm down here. So is that why he lit the candle and then snuffed it out? Like
Yeah.
it made no, it happens twice in the movie and there's
Yep.
no reason given.
The only goof listed is it's like an ADR goof. It's like when Mars is holding Bill up in the air and about to kill him, Bill cries out and his mouth doesn't match the words. We can do better than that. We can find better goofs than that in
I bet
Mad
the director posted that. He's like, that's on me, guys. That's on me. I messed that up.
Men.
I didn't catch that.
I did see a funny trivia that the guy that played Madman Mars, his child was born. Did they talk about this on Joe Bob?
They did, yeah.
So his child was born while he was filming, and he was in full Madman Mars makeup and had to go to the hospital to see his, so his child
Poor guy.
his child was birthed and they gave him to him, and that was the earliest moment in any human being's life where they were disappointed in their father. That child said, "Put me back in, goddamn."
Listen, I'm going to tell you guys right now. I really came around on Madman the second viewing.
Oh, don't say it.
Okay. I
That's the booze talking from
I
when you watched it.
I really, I'm not saying that I think it's a good movie by any
I
means,
think you
but I
just don't
really
want
came around to a little more to Madman.
I enjoyed it the first time. I enjoyed it the second time. I'm gonna I think you just don't want to watch it again, Biggsy. You're gonna vote for it, aren't you? You son of a
No, no. Well,
bitch.
it's
uh
close. It's
I
close.
I mean, this movie is really, I'm amazed because it's pretty clean. Like, I don't even know that they cuss, but maybe 2 or 3 times in it, where it's like you could have
yeah,
had this on Mystery Science Theater because it's definitely that level.
yeah.
And the dude Max looks like the proto Rousdower, if you remember that episode from Mystery Science Theater, where there's a fat Canadian guy in Final Sacrifice running around with a shotgun and a Canadian tuxedo, and he looks kind of like Max, except a little athletic, I dare to say. Not as much hairspray in his hair, but that's what this movie is. It's like this time my wife and I watched the Joe Bob episode, and she even was like, God, that movie was a slog. I'm tired of looking at these people that are left. And I was like, that's exactly what I said. And of course, Joe Bob always stretches this stuff out. Like we've talked about this on air or off air. Like sometimes there's certain movies that you just like, it's I need the break from Joe Bob, and this is definitely one of those movies where I need the break for Joe Bob to make it give me some
Please,
time away from this movie.
God, to turn my attention away from. I have two notes I want to say, if I may. I don't want to interject if you guys have something to say, but I did take count of every close up of his hand. Every time it showed a close up.
I really loved all the close-ups of those hands.
So there were 27 instances where it just showed his hand either lighting a candle or I don't know, moving a branch. But that is actually a low count because at the end there's a part where he's like reaching into the bus and they like kind of
Yep.
slam the bus door on his hand and it keeps cutting like to the kid and then back to it. I only counted that as a one shot. So if because it's the same shot of his hand. So if I counted every actual time that it just showed his hand, it would have been well over 40.
Is that
Just his
where
hand.
the main actress is like beating him with the stick, with his hand with
Yeah,
the stick? But it's like it's
yeah,
not like hard. She's like slapping
yeah,
his
Yeah.
yeah.
hand over
She's
and
just
over
It's like
again,
she's
and it just
swatting
keeps coming
flies.
back to his stupid fingers. I
and,
was losing it.
and my second note that I really want to say is in the beginning when when they're telling about Madman Mars, and they're like, you know, he killed his family, he did this and that. They're like, yeah, he used to get in a lot of bar fights. One man bit his nose off. There's
Yeah.
there's a man who's a badder ass than Badman Mars who bit his fucking nose off in a bar fight. Well, I want to see a movie about that guy.
Maybe that was going to be the sequel.
Maybe the secret is it was Max that bit his nose off. Because we still
That
don't have a time frame of how old timesy it was that he murdered his family and then went to the bar.
Yeah, well, I did notice this time around that his family is his mother and daughter are in the house with all the other dead bodies and they're just like
Yeah.
way more decayed. I didn't notice that the first time. I thought that was actually really cool.
I didn't
Um
notice that either.
uh
I did have like I saw where they did a pretty good job of the foreshadowing, other than like the blatant stuff at the very beginning. There I don't know, the movie felt better put together on a second viewing, but there's still
yeah.
the dialogue's just terrible. It's still not like it's not a B movie with dialogue that's so funny you could laugh at it.
Right.
Um, the hot
No.
tub scene was still just a real treat watching them spin around like they're on a teacup ride at
I,
Kennywood.
that was my note. The teacup because they're individually circling each other, but
They're
as
doing whirlpool.
they're
No,
also
but then they're also spinning around to like face each other and away from each
yeah,
other.
like they are themselves spinning 360 as they're spinning like around the perimeter of the it's fucking crazy. It is a wild scene and I can't wait to
That's
see it
the
again.
scene to watch the movie for, it really
Yeah, it's
is.
pretty infamous. I really my favorite again after this would be now my third or fourth viewing of this. It's 2 consecutive week now. um, is Stacy with the recorder personal time out on the little dinghy. And then the will she or won't she action sequence of her climbing a 3-foot hill
A
Three
very
foot
slam
bank.
very
where she's
slam
got to go up that embankment and Madman, a hand shot of
a hand
Madman
shot. Yep.
Mars.
Yep. And then she turns around and raspberries him. She goes like, it's
Well,
fucking crazy.
she was the badass. She should have been the
He
last girl.
raspberried Madman Mark.
She should have been the last girl.
She actually was the most had the most get up and go.
Yeah.
She was the most responsible. She technically knew how to fix the truck. She knew where all the flashlights were.
Could you imagine how awesome it would be if she was just beating him with the flute at the end of it? Beating his fat hands with the flute.
His fat hands and feet. Next time I'm going to do a foot count, if there is a next time, which I guess we should probably get to.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
All right, so we'll go around do
There's
a quick.
still so much more to talk about with Madman.
But
I know we gotta go.
we may have Madman next week.
All right, quick summations. Go ahead and start, Big Z. What do you think? Both movies.
I'll admit it was closer of a choice this week. Which movie was the worst? Because I really did just have more of a good time with Madman than I did the first time around. But I gotta be honest, and Dellamorte dellamore, Cemetery Man, is the better movie, despite the long periods of that movie that I did not enjoy watching. It's definitely, in my eyes, gets a pass and gets laid to rest.
All right.
We're going to be watching Madman for a third week because Madman is just bad.
I'm so excited.
I still have notes, which is
yeah, I do too. I got notes and I got fun and games, so I'm excited to get to it again. I this one wasn't nearly as close for me. I thought Cemetery Man is a well-made movie that I thoroughly fucking enjoyed. Madman, while I have fun watching it, is a piece of shit. Now we got to watch it again this week because, yeah, sorry, you eat the buckle, Madman. Let me ask you this real quick.
What's it going to go up against?
Well, real quick, did you? I guess I know your guys' answers, but is Cemetery Man better than Event Horizon, last week's winner?
That's not in the premise of the podcast.
Oh, come on, give me your opinion. Just don't want to say it is better than Event Horizon.
It's apples and oranges.
I'd rather watch Event Horizon than Cemetery Man.
Same.
Wow, you're insane. Okay, next week's picture chosen at random to go against is what? Planet Terror.
Oh, okay.
Planet Terror.
Planet Terror
Planet Terror. God.
versus Madman.
Well, we'll keep it close to the vest.
Ooh.
All right. Well, how do we say we're gonna end this? Ding, ding, ding. That's the bell. I hope we saved room for
your
next.
winner. It's your loser and reigning champion, Madman Mars.
Hope you saved room for next week because we're gonna eat the buckle.
Bye.
He's real.
Lore of the campfire, telling of his horror, lost in the woods with the madman and the stars. Don't laugh at the tales, heed if you call